After the victory against the Dark Elves, Forik needed to keep his warriors' momentum going. If they hunkered down, they would soon forget they were even at war. And so he marched his warriors from their soon-to-be fort and made their way into the Lizardmen's holdings. It was here that the Thane wished to exact a blood debt owed by the lizards. They had not only used foul magic to harm his people, but they had been audacious enough to destroy one of the great altars of Grimnir. Forik knew well that such an act could only be repaid in one way, and that was blood. As his men assembled and he caught sight of the gathering serpents, he spotted an item that could be used. A magically infused statue which could be broken down by Gris and reforged into a rune of cleaving. It would be a waste to leave it behind, so he directed his men to head for it first. Though this was a battle, and if the tides turned, Forik would choose victory for his king, rather than victory for himself. Alright, so here's our battlefield. Now there are two, in addition to normal battle line, there are two missions going on here. First one, I am attempting to unlock the Egg of Quango, and to do that, the hill at the very back, I have to get a unit to that hill, spend a turn looting it to hunt down the Egg of Quango, and then get away with it. And they have to be alive at the end of the turn, or end of the game. My opponent has to get this little beastman model in the center of the board is the magical statue he's looking for. It's enchanted, so he can add it to a unit if he moves over it, at which point the statue gives the unit MR2, but any spell cast upon that unit cannot be dispelled. So it definitely changes some things there. And furthermore, if that unit, once it takes the statue, takes a wound, the statue flies out of their hands and scatters a random d6 inches. And at the start of every player turn, if the statue is not possessed by a unit, it hovers 6d6 inches back towards the center of the board. And he has to just have it and have it on his deployment zone claimed before the end of the game. To get that, and he's trying to get a double rune of cleaving, I believe is what he's trying to get with that. So for deployment, protecting the hill and the Egg of Quango, he has his organ gun and his master engineer Rolus, who is also serving as his general. Then he's got a unit of warriors with hand weapon and shield, a unit of iron breakers with Forik, bearer of the van, his battle standard bearer in there. And then barely in this forest in the back, he has another unit of warriors with great weapons. This forest ended up being the Blood Forest, where if you get spells cast on you, the forest tries to beat you up and then moves off somewhere else. Then for my deployment, I have a unit of 24 Saurus warriors, so for those of you who were complaining, I have downgraded it a little bit. In there is my general, Gorokoth. Then I have a unit of two... jungle swarms in the river. Then I have a unit of 10 skinks with javelins, and behind them is Kubonai, my BSB, mounted on a stegodon. Then over here I have my second unit of skinks with javelins, 10 strong, and Mapikaju, my level 2 Heaven's Mage, is in there, and they are actually set up just like that because the organ gun can't see them at this point. They're hiding behind that building. Okay, so I win first turn, and the first thing I do is move through this forest to here, find out that it is a venom thicket, and lose a skink to dangerous terrain. I then loot the forest and get 5 or 6 gold. Then these skinks move up, still hiding behind the building. I couldn't quite get into it, and frankly, with the organ on, I'm not certain it's a good idea to go into it, but I'm at least right now using it as cover until I can get a little closer. Then everything in the center comes up cautiously. I know he's going to need to go for the token if he wants to win his objective, so I'm not really rushing past it. I'm kind of letting him come to me, and maybe I'll get a counter charge. I really kind of want to see what that Saurus group can do if I can get them and the swarms in there and give them poison attacks. So I'm being very cautious. And during magic phase, I managed to get Ice Shard Blizzard off on his organ gun. So I'm hoping that just to limit the amount of damage that thing can do, because I am very afraid of it. It can delete most of these units and could put a hurt on the Saurus if he wants to focus on it. So we go to the dwarf's turn. The Ironbreakers come forward. The warriors on the right stay where they are so they can loot that forest and they get some gold. And the warriors on the left move so that one dude enters into the water so they can loot the mysterious water and get some gold there as well. Then up here, his general enters into this forest, which also turns out to be a poison wood, because he wants to loot it there. He's figuring he's got to give up his ability to use the engineer's ability on the organ gun to do that, because once a character's looted, they can do nothing else that turn. But I really haven't given him any great targets yet, so I think that's probably a pretty smart call. So we go to my turn, and I just decide I need to push up hard. I get the feeling if we're both going to play cautiously that this game is going to come down to very few points. So I take the skinks and run them like crazy. I need to target his general, and I'm hoping that he'll essentially look out Sir enough where I'll sneak some poison wounds in on the organ gun, but I'm not trying to match that toughness 7 right now. And over here, I move up again just a little bit. He's still got very large charges, so I don't want to overextend myself and make it easy for him. But I'm hovering right behind that statue right now, because I know he's going to have to come for it. So pretty much nothing happened in the rest of the turn. I got ice shard off again on the organ gun, but I couldn't shoot for crap. So we go into dwarf turn, and he brings the iron breakers a little forward. The great weapon warriors on the other side are coming to support them, and he backs the warriors out of the river because it's a burning flood and he doesn't want to take the extra damage. And actually, it does look like I did get a wound on the organ gun and a wound on the general last turn. I probably should have taken a picture of that. But he tries to open up on my unit there with the wizard on the left, and ends up doing 3 wounds, but cold-blooded leadership sticks me. And yeah, here's just a better picture of me taking those wounds. So then I need to get into a better shot. So since the organ gun and the general are technically 3 inches apart, my one skink unit essentially single files through them and ends up there. The other one with the wizard goes up on top of the hill, so now I've got clear lines of fire on things. I'm just trying to throw as many shots at that general as he can, because I need to pick up those points bad. And during magic, I fail to get Ice Shard Blizzard off again, which is going to hurt. But I do throw enough javelins where he's got to look out, sir, and I do 1 more wound to the organ gun. So the organ gun's only got 1 wound left on it, I believe, and the general has 1 wound left on him. So we go into the dwarf turn, and he realizes that he needs to bring some support over to help out his general, so these warriors start making their way across the burning flood. They're definitely going to take a lot of wounds before they get there, though. And then over here, we're just kind of doing a Mexican standoff. He's moving an inch forward, I'm moving an inch back. Try to keep those log charges, but I don't want to catch both those dwarf units at one time. And I'm not really sure how I'm going to get rid of one of them, because ideally the one on the right is the least troublesome, but I would have to enter into the forest, so if things go south I wouldn't be steadfast, so we're just kind of at a standoff there. Then during shooting here, he just goes organ gun in the face, trying to get that unit with my wizard in it on the top of the hill. Doesn't roll great for his number of shots, but even with that ends up killing 5 of the skinks, but luckily cold-blooded sticks me, and we're in good shape. So on my turn, I'm not really wanting to take any chances, so I get the wizard out of that 2-man unit. The 2-man unit loots the hill to get the Egg of Klongo, and I move the Stegodon over to where my 18-inch leadership or BSB bubble is, because I'm frankly doing very well on leadership rolls and I don't want to push it, so getting the reroll there would be good. And basically after 2 turns, my turn and his turn of the water, he's just taking very, very bad burns and has lost about half the strength of this warrior block. You can also see I did succeed in getting Ice Shard Blizzard off on the organ gun again this turn. So we go to next dwarf turn, and he decides to go ahead and make a run for it. Moves up his iron breakers to where they are able to pick up the token, and he moves up his warriors into the forest to essentially get ready to support them. And I think this is my chance. He's brought them into pretty easy charges, and so now on my next turn, I'm going to try and take advantage of that. You also see he does manage to finally, during movement of this turn, get the dwarf warriors out of the river, but he has done so much damage to them, all that's left is a single rank. He thinks that I'm going to charge my Stegodon into him, but he doesn't realize or hasn't been paying attention to the fact that what I was really doing was maneuvering the Stegodon to get a charge at the organ gun. So I need like a 5 or a 6 to hit the organ gun now, and I'm planning on tearing that the hell up. So we go into, this is turn 5, I believe, is this time. So I charge with the Saurus at his great weapons, and he flees. And I'm like, holy crap, I didn't expect him to do that. Who flees with dwarves? So I redirected into the iron breakers, and he flees there too. And I'm wondering, why the hell is he doing this? And I realize he's going for the mission. If he flees, he'll get back to his deployment zone even faster, and he'll win the mission. So we go to my turn, or this is the other side of my turn. So I do get the Stegodon charge into the organ gun. That's gone. The guys with the Egg of Quango are getting the hell out of dodge because I can't afford them to just randomly die to anything or panic off the board if something goes really bad. My wizard is hanging out just up at the top of the hill. And then during shooting, my javelin skinks, after 5+ turns of doing this, finally managed to take his general down. And obviously Kubanai and his pet Stegodon take out the organ gun and turns around to look at these few remaining dudes. Now, I was dumb here because I focused too much on him, not thinking that he could march and get out of my charge arc. I should have turned myself a little further south pointing so that I'd be able to pick up those points too, but I screwed it up. So, bottom of 5, the Iron Breakers rally and turn and stand where they are. The Warriors fail to rally and continue to run, and right now they're in the middle of that forest that'll beat them to death if I can throw magic on them. And then the only other thing he does this turn is he runs out of the line of sight of my Stegodon. So, I figure since it's turn 6, game's about to be over, I might as well try and get some points other than what my skinks have done. So I charge the Saurus in and the Swarm, and end up succeeding both. So I've got the Swarm sitting there on the corner. Then I move everybody around over here I have just now got in the BSB in the 18-inch range with that fight going on over there. And I'm just trying to shoot these last few dwarves to death. And all the shooting I can bring to bear only kills one of the 3 remaining dwarves, so he's going to keep the points for that. And then over here, my charge went terrible. I even have Ice Shard Blizzard off on these dwarves, and I can't hit anything. He's armor saving and parry saving. He ends up doing 2 wounds to me, which, the way it wins out, means that I lose the battle by 1. And but I'm leadership 8, cold-blooded, rerollable, so nobody's going anywhere. So we go into Dwarf turn 6. He tries to charge my 2 skinks with the Egg of Quango and fails and ends up in the forest. But he doesn't take any dangerous terrain for it. And his dwarves over here rally. You'll notice the forest is moved. I hit him with magic last turn trying to kill him. It hit him for a few wounds, but it didn't do anything. So he rallies with them. They don't run off the board. And we go into combat, and it's again just an absolute whiff fest. Nobody really dies, and that's the game. Forik and his Iron Breakers were standing strong against the Saurus, but surprisingly the Lizardmen were holding them to a standstill. Out of the corner of his eye, Forik saw one of the small orange lizards hold up an egg that resembled a knotty stone. In response, the largest of the Saurus roared a command that Forik could not understand. But in response to that roar, the Saurus stepped back with a precision that the dwarf Thane could only admire. The large lizard man stepped forward, obviously intending to speak. He did so brokenly in the dwarf tongue. "I, Gorokoth, lead," He pointed to the egg. "This ours." Forik had no care for the small stone and agreed. He was only here to answer the grudge against the lizard folk, and said as much to Gorokoth. "We fight chaos. If you fight us, you fight for chaos," the Saurus leader said simply. "If you fight for chaos, you die." Forik looked around and noticed he was badly outnumbered by the Lizardmen forces, and he still didn't know if Rawlus had survived his battle on the other side of the river. He knew that a withdrawal was in order. He had just hoped that the Lizardmen would allow it. Thinking quickly, he pulled a bag of gold from his pack and held it before him. "Take this, and let us remove our dead and injured, and we will leave." Gorokoth took the bag and waved the dwarves away. In fact, he and his forces did not even stay to make sure the dwarves left. They simply departed, leaving Forik wondering the true reason for their presence here. So, rough game for the dwarves. They did not succeed their mission because they did take a wound in the very last round of combat, so they dropped the statue. They ended up gaining a total of 16 gold pieces from looting, but then their game loss result was they had to pay me 4 gold pieces for reparations. So, net gain of 12 gold pieces for the dwarves this game. But my Lizardmen made off like bandits. After the reparations, I ended up with 23 gold pieces. I succeeded my mission, so I got the Egg of Quango. And my winning result was Regiment of Renown. So these Saurus that I now have to field in 26-man blocks because they're locked in at the same way they're built here, have become the Fangs of Gorokoth. And the special rule that they got by being a Regiment of Renown is always strikes first. So that's pretty awesome. I have super speed Saurus warriors now, which is pretty good. Downside, it means that whenever I field the Lizardmen, I've got to field them. So it is going to kind of restrict my build a little bit, but hopefully the always strikes first will be worth it. All in all, this was a very good game. It actually was very, very close. I would not have won without taking out his general, because we really didn't get much points other than that, so it came down very, very close. It was a lot of fun. It was very different. I mean, usually when Michael and I play, we just kind of slam big blocks into each other. But this one was a lot of sort of shooting and counter-shooting, and I think it could have gone either way. If he had gotten a couple of better rolls on the organ gun at the right times and blown one of those skink units up, I wouldn't have been able to take out the general. Now, in terms of the skinks, I think I actually like the blowgun skinks better, but I can definitely see why people take the Saurus or the javelin skinks. I think I would have been better served with the blowgun skinks for this particular scenario, but I wanted to give them a try. And despite becoming a Regiment of Renown, the Saurus kind of left me cold. They really didn't do a whole lot, and the poison didn't really help. But then again, they are strength 4 going up against 3 up armor saves, so I guess I can't ask for too much there. But all in all, hope you guys enjoyed this. It was a fun game to play. Hopefully it was a fun one to watch. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below and I'll get to them as soon as I can. Otherwise, we'll catch you on the next one.